Right, so Ben, Sunday we saw Scotland take on Ireland, a big, massively hyped game. And at the end of it, have Scotland gifted Ireland the championship, Ben?
No, they've not gifted them anything because you earn it. And I don't want to sound like cliche there, but you do. And my gosh, did they earn it. So Ireland are definitely front runners because the Ireland that I saw today is the team that we've been accustomed to seeing. And we haven't seen it necessarily in the autumn. We saw glimpses of it last week. But this weekend against Scotland, where it was the game of the weekend or hyped up to be, and I just thought Ireland just showed their class and they showed they're a cut above the rest because they're just so efficient. They give you nothing for free. You have to earn everything. You can look at it in a way of like Scotland compounded errors. So, they got charged down a few times. Then they make a mistake. Kinghorn drops it. They fly Hackett through. Nash is chasing it. Dewey van der Merwe takes him out as a yellow card. Then 5 minutes later, a really nasty collision. And we wish Darcy Graham a speedy recovery there. That did not look nice. Him and Finn Russell. So they lose two key players, you'd actually say. And they have to change. But Ireland were well in control even before that happened. And, the manner of which Scotland sort of gifted them opportunities to 22 entries, which is the last thing you want to do against Ireland because they're so efficient at just retaining the ball, building pressure, finding a little avenue to get speed of ball and find an edge and score, or they just draw penalties out of you. But as a blueprint, you just look at Ireland, they compete for everything, whether that's on the floor, in the air, set piece, breakdown, and they were just dominant, mate. They honestly, I just thought that was the Ireland that I've come to watch over the sort of the last few years, and they proper produced it today. And Scotland didn't help themselves, but Ireland put them in that position to sort of not implode, that's not the right word, but invite pressure because of the way that Ireland was so efficient.
Part of what you said there makes me think of England's first half last week and actually probably giving England a bit more credit for what they actually did by limiting the Irish, and say everyone sort of went, kicking the ball away, playing no rugby inside their own half. Well, I think Scotland tried that. The sort of first bit of ball they really got was, they're just inside the Irish half, they sort of play, they're trying to go through their faces, flick the ball at the back. They're not really going anywhere. And Ireland just end up packing the ball through, naturally gathers it or doesn't gather it and gets taken out. And you're kind of like, that's almost why you don't play in that part of the field against the Irish, because they can turn defence into attack so quickly. I thought, aerially they had everything on top. The sort of breakdown, I think they mastered today in regards to when to jackal, when to not. They got caught a couple of times later on, but the score was so big that you kind of sometimes get those decisions. And I thought Scotland, sort of that first half, I think Ireland just came out, not rolled them, but like Ireland played almost a perfect game in that first half, controlled the ball, controlled defence. They got held by the line a couple of times, didn't they, Ireland, in the first half, which could have been even more tries in some regard. And then, I think Scotland looked good. So the second half, when they came out and sort of almost went direct against Ireland, that first sort of 5-10 minutes when the bit between their teeth. But by the amount of effort it takes you to scoring to get back into the game, all Ireland need to do is kick a penalty or something. And you kind of like you spend 10 minutes exerting so much energy to get a score, and then it basically just gets taken away from you the next time you get on the other end of the field. So, that's what I thought.
Scotland get the try just before half-time that gives them a little bit of life. And you think, okay, so you almost look at it and go, right, Scotland probably couldn't have been not any worse, but were their own Achilles heel with getting charged down, sin bins, 2 guys going off, unfortunately, injured. So they've had disruptions and they haven't essentially helped themselves. But then you just look at Ireland and they just go through the gears. And I don't know, I looked at them today and I thought, they are a cut above the rest, because you look at France, for instance, as we've already spoke about them, but you look at France and great teams don't miss 4 or 5 clear-cut opportunities to score like they did at the weekend. Like, great teams don't miss the opportunity to put England away. Ireland would never do that, not to that level. And, they might squander one. I doubt it, but they might squander one, but not that many. And I just think the closest that teams compete with Ireland, let's say, but going into the tournament, I thought was France. But then I look at it, they put in this display, and I think they're going to be back at home on the time they play the French in round 4. I just don't see anyone getting near them, to be honest with you, Coley. I just think they're that well drilled and oiled that really impressive. And the thing what makes them impressive is they're efficient out of their half, Coley. They don't waste energy coming out of their end, right? So they just get the kick off and the ball's gone. It's down there. If they're outside the 22, they go to a crossfield, a contest, and the guys are brilliant in the air. They get up and they compete and they fight for it and they make it a mess, right? Say they don't win it. They then fill the field and they D up. They've got unbelievable jackal threats and they just punish you. Like, they're just happy without the ball. And if they've got the ball, they're happy as well. And I just think that they're just extremely efficient in how they work all together. And I don't see a weakness within their game when they produce like they did today.
Yeah, they're definitely the most complete team. I think they've got no real weaknesses, and they are the most cohesive unit, to put it there. And I say you've got, they're good on the floor, good in the air, set piece is good, their strikes are good, there's some multi-phase stuff, their defence happy defending. Can the French beat them? I would say yes, but it would rely upon the French having those individual talents to come to the fore and basically run the show and use their size and strength to bully the island. But the thing is to say, you can't really see it happening because I think the Irish will be they play the game so low to the ground in regards to sort of the breakdown, the tackle area, that, I think they'd compete with France aerially, all those sort of cross kicks that Dupont and stuff put in. Ireland will be able to deal with that. So yeah, Ireland's definitely after 2 weeks, Ireland definitely the best team in the tournament. But I know they've won 2 games, it's an obvious thing to say, but I think the first half in England, it was probably their warm-up, if for some regards, you know what I mean? And they've sort of hit their straps now in sort of the sort of past 3 halves of rugby they've played, and just the efficiency in which they play, as you say, getting out of their own half, just knowing what they're doing. Everyone's good and comfortable on the ball. They've got no sort of, everyone can tackle. Like you saw the tight head today, Finlay Bealham, he's got a jackal turnover. Porter gets through an amazing amount of work in regards to just tackling, sort of like he makes a cover tackle. Sometimes you're like, well, how did he get there? Or even like clear outs and stuff. He's just there all the time. And the back row complements itself by, Peter O'Mahony's in the wide channels. Doris is carrying balls back. Van der Fleer pops up in random spots to sort of carry the ball or jackal the ball. And they work really well. They're just a very well-oiled team and they know exactly what they're doing.
Coley, just on the front rows, mate, because Scotland love to launch off strikes, so line out and scrums. They love like patterns and they want to create, we want to hold on to the ball and go through the phases. But as you just mentioned there, the Irish front row, I felt like they were getting a nudge and they looked like pretty dominant, obviously in their jackals and the things they brought around the pitch, but equally in the scrum, mate. There was a couple of scrums where you're like, poof, like they're going for Scotland here.
Oh yeah, I think when they sniffed blood, they went after it. I think Porter is leading up to the World Cup in 2023 is a very destructive loosehead, and I think he's so strong. I mean, I know he's got some ridiculous sort of squat stats and stuff like that, but he's an incredibly strong, dense human being. And I think sometimes it was cottoned on that because he was so aggressive in the scrum and attacking, he was sort of stepping out and going around. I think there was a couple of times against New Zealand, especially in that World Cup quarter where he got penalised and it almost hurt Ireland because they sort of got possession turnaround. And I think since that World Cup, he's fair play to him. He's reduced those penalties. There used to be 1 or 2 a game, and not 1 or 2 a game, it's a bit harsh, but I'd say there's 1 a game of him being almost like overly aggressive. And actually now he sort of stays square. He's tightened up his game. He very rarely gives away a scrum penalty. But at the same time, because he's so strong, as soon as a tight head decides to move or take the pressure off him, as you saw today, he can really apply, he can really disrupt a scrummager. And his work rate around the field is unbelievable. I think he was leading at one point, leading the team in tackles, both sides in tackles today. And yeah, you just see him, he's like an extra back rower really, just the way he hoops around the field. He carries on that arrowhead shape. There's a couple of times early doors in the first half where he's carrying, gets back up, carries again. And the bloke's got an incredible work rate. And I say Finlay Bealham, I know he's not there technically starting tight head because he goes behind Tyke Furlong, but you've seen he's come on to the leaps and bounds and the way he plays, and he locked it down in the autumn against New Zealand when we thought New Zealand would sort of have a scrum dominance there. And similarly, past couple of weekends, I know he got a turnover today, big one, but you see his work rate around the field. He's a very good player.
Coley, just to kind of back up what you're saying there in terms of the set piece stuff and how much jackal work they do and the forwards, the set piece they give, but just to kind of give the listeners and everyone an understanding of just how efficient they are with the ball as well. So they're comfortable without it, but they're so efficient with it and they punish you. So when you look at the Sage Insights, Ireland only made 81 carries to Scotland's 131. England, just to give you some perspective again, England made 95 yesterday carries and England kicked the lever off it. that was the right option to do, and that's what they did. But it just shows you, like, England, for all the lack of rugby that they played yesterday, played the conditions brilliantly and did the right thing. But like, they only did 95, but Ireland only did 81 today. But they were just that efficient with the ball. Like, it's just, yeah, it was honestly a masterclass in Test rugby today in how they went about it in many ways.
Yeah, well, I think that goes both ways. I think Ireland, as you say, very efficient inside their own half, and they don't have many breakdowns, they don't have many carries. They basically just get the ball over off the field, down the other end of the field as quick as possible, whether that's James Lowe's left boot or Gibson Park's right, whatever they do, or Prendergast, they get the ball out there. And similarly, in the opposition half, they're so well structured in regards to sort of their either set plays or their ability to sort of just offload and keep the ball moving, that they get the ball to the width and pound the line and, score. And say that's their efficiency. And I think that's something that, other teams look at. I know that we all get seduced as fans by like, oh yes, we want to see possession, we want to see great things. But you look at Scotland, you look at Wales in round one, like, carries are great, but they're not if you're not doing anything with it. In fact, they can sometimes be a liability because you risk turning the ball over at the breakdown, or if you're playing in the wrong part of the field, or you just go through multi-phases, you're not going anywhere. The game's almost like, it's not a possession game anymore, but it's like a momentum game. Is if you've got forward momentum, you want to stay on top, and whether that's a kick or a run. Whereas as soon as you start going backwards and in defence, or you're going static, the risk of losing the ball at the breakdown or a knock-on almost outweighs the risk of just playing. And that's what I think you've seen in the past couple of weekends. What I will say, as I noticed today, an interesting thing, Scotland with their props. I don't know if you saw, but in the first half, I think they ran a 4-man line out, and Sutherland actually ends up carrying, and the bloke clearing the breakdown is Fagerson. And they're obviously running an 11 pattern, which means they sort of hit up once and then go back to the short side. But I thought it was quite smart, because normally you stick your props from the line, you have 4 or 5-man line, and you'll have a prop there. And basically, Scotland decided that they'd carry with the props, and then that meant on the short side, they had all their back rowers and second row and backs could reload, which I thought was actually a smart use of the who you had in the field. Not something I thought about, which actually makes perfect sense in regards to if you want to have your athletes down that short side row and props lumbering around, you have them. And I thought it was really smart. Didn't go anywhere, but it was really smart.
That's where Gregor Townsend is very smart. And, the strikes and everything like that. And again, that reiterates, Scotland will be frustrated. The manner they started the game, the lack of set piece dominance they got in terms of clean ball. Like, yes, they launched off that line out Coley, but they had one around 30 minutes and they messed that one up. They then got an invitation back down there. They managed to execute that line out, but actually ended up they got held up. And Ireland had turned it over anyway. So they weren't able to launch, which they love doing, because that is a big part of Gregor Townsend's philosophy, is off line outs, having these really clever little patterns and plays. So you see sort of world leading examples of line outs and their strikes, and things like, using the front rowers to crash it up rather than your traditional back row and a centre to crash it up, keeping your best players and ball players and athletes on edges. So real smart from him and how they did that.
Certainly was. But I was saying, think about Ireland, they just have that ability they're smart footballers themselves, and they probably realise that, and then they understand what's going on, and they have the ability, even if you do have like an Andrew Porter left out in space, he has the ability to cover it, as the back rowers do, as everyone does. So yeah, you could see what they were thinking, but I think Ireland just had that ability, the measure of them in that regard. Also, I would say Andrew Porter is their charge down king, by the way. Normal teams say when a team's box kicking, they have their second row, their 6'6" second row, or whatever it is, back rower, someone that leaps in the air and gets high on the ground, can jump and put pressure on the kick that way. Ireland use Porter. I think it's just because he's not the tallest, but because he's so explosive. I think as soon as the ball's picked, his ability to cover the first 2 yards rapidly. And yeah, no, the bloke was, he got one today and was close to another. And at the moment of the autumn, we got a charge down or two. So you're like, the bloke's a freak. He's really good.
Coley, I want to just talk about Conan's try and how it got to that point. And it was a definitely little kick from Gibson Park. And I was watching it with my son, and the kick went over the top, and it bounced beautifully straight back up to Keenan, gathered it, quick ruck, shift, try. And my son asked, is that just a box kick he's done there? And I said, no, actually, it's not. So I thought, maybe I'll explain it. So I have a ballon. So your normal kick, if you're box kicking it, you'd want to be hitting around this mark here, and the ball will be tilted back, so you're going up and through it. If you're kicking it long and off, you'll tilt it that way and whack it. The way Gibson Park's hit it, which is great vision from him, is actually hold it completely parallel, and boom, you hit the top of the ball like this, and that creates that end over end spin, and it either hits and bounces on and rolls on, as you can so often see when people are kicking to corners, plugging to corners, it bounces and fine grass, or because it's hit like that and it goes end over end, it can occasionally bounce and come straight back up, which obviously it did today. So firstly, unbelievable vision from Gibson Park. He's actually sort of coming into the ruck and someone just sort of lifts it to him, but just before he gets lifted to him, he kind of looks up and spots some bad backfield. Keenan's obviously called for it as well, so he's seen the space. He's then communicated into Gibson Park, but then he's got the ability to then execute it, because on that kick, the way you want to hit it, you've got to get it up and over quick to find grass. You kick it too long, someone will eventually get there, but he just has the perfect amount of weight, get it up and over the ruck, and it finds perfect bounce. Keenan gets it, quick ball, and away they go and score. But I just thought I'd just give you a little insight into that. So anyone out there that wants to try different types of kicks, there you go. Give that one a go. It can be very effective.
I'll pull out in training tomorrow, Ben.
I look forward to it. Can you hit it off your left?
Might be a bit of an ask, that. So Sam at Prendergast got man of the match today. Obviously, as a 10 pulling the strings for such an efficient display. He had a nice few touches and stuff. What was your overall thoughts and impressions on him?
I thought he was good against Scotland, definitely. I think he stepped up from where he was against England. You know, we spoke about him a few weeks ago. There's a lot of expectation on this young guy's shoulders, and everyone's waiting for him to kind of be the next best thing. And I think today he had a really tidy game. Like he's important. He fulfills his role. He does his job. I thought it was a lovely little pass of his left hand for that first try to Nash. Great little distribution. Kicked out a hand nicely. Hit a couple of lovely spirals, to be fair, for big distance. The crossfields were on the money, which allowed Ireland to get in the air and compete. And, you know, he pulled the strings in terms of being out the back of that shape and getting the ball moving. So, look, like all the Ireland are just so well drilled, and we've said it many times, is rather than like the individual shine on the back of everyone doing their job with Ireland. And he's someone that just does his job and did a very good display again, a mature display. And I think he's someone that the more he plays Test rugby, the more and more you're going to see this guy kind of make it his own. Because last week he had little moments, but then he had a good few error moments as well, where today he seems to have a lot more of a tidy game. But look, there's still more in the guy. But, you know, you can certainly see that he is fulfilling his role and making sure that others continue to get plenty of touches and they move them up the field and do what you need as a 10.
So, Ben, is this now Ireland's title to lose?
Yeah, I absolutely would say this is now Ireland's title to lose, because, you know, they've obviously got Wales, they've got Italy to come. And, you know, I can't see those guys, those teams competing with Ireland. The only team that can compete with Ireland is France if they bring in the power game. But the way that France played at the weekend, they were incredibly sloppy. And if they're that sloppy against Ireland, they've got absolutely no chance. So if the French turn up and they bring in that power game and everything like that, then I think they can definitely run Ireland close. But I think Ireland and the way that they went about the business today suggests to me that they are absolutely title favourites as it currently stands, mate. Right.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, and if you fancy leaving a little comment about how to beat the Irish, because no one else seems able to, and as long as that's not some smart ass comment about like score more points, be much appreciated.